This is the highest-rated American TV series in history, with its 5 seasons consistently maintaining a rating above 9. A certain authoritative review website even gave it an astonishing 99 points, and it was included in the Guinness World Records as the highest-rated TV series in history. At the time, it even defeated high-rated TV series like House of Cards and Game of Thrones, earning multiple Emmy nominations. Unlike most American TV series that start strong and lose momentum, Breaking Bad continuously pushes the plot to a climax. It can be said that those who haven't watched Breaking Bad are fortunate, because it's like a treasure waiting to be discovered. The story begins. A pair of trousers fell from the sky and were ruthlessly crushed by a speeding caravan. Driving is the show's protagonist Walter, who glances at his unconscious partner in the passenger seat with 2 dead bodies also in the vehicle. Walter, committing his first crime, is so anxious and panicked that he drives off the road and plunges into a ditch. Gasping for air, he runs out of the vehicle and in a fit of anger throws away his gas mask. To make matters worse, the sound of piercing sirens approaches from a distance, making the already frantic Walter even more bewildered. He doesn't know when he lost his pants, so he hurriedly puts on a green shirt. Then he takes a deep breath, dives back into the RV to take the dead man's handgun, and grabs a wallet and a camcorder from the passenger seat. Next, he starts to record his last will, because he knew he was at the end of his rope. Holding the handgun, he goes to the crossroads ready to fight the police in a life-or-death struggle. But what exactly is going on? The story actually starts 3 weeks earlier. Walter is an honest and upright chemistry teacher with a talent for chemistry. He was once a Nobel Prize winner in chemistry. Today is Walter's 50th birthday, and his pregnant wife Skylar, as usual, uses plain bacon to spell out the number 50 to celebrate. At this time, Walter's disabled son Walter Jr. arrives late as usual, complaining about the lack of hot water and strongly demanding a new water heater. However, Walter Jr. doesn't know the hardships of family life. With Walter's salary alone to support a family of 4 and pay off the house mortgage, having such plain bacon is already quite good. Then Walter drove his car to school with his son. Out of his love for chemistry, his class becomes lively and interesting, but there are always some unruly students whispering below.
Chad, is there something wrong with your table? Okay, ionic bonds. Chapter 6.
To earn extra money to help the family, Walter works part-time as a cashier at a car wash after school. However, to save money, the car wash owner Bogdan often makes Walter, who is over 50, do double the work for the same pay. Although Walter is very resentful, he has to swallow his pride for the sake of living. But embarrassingly, that day Walter encounters one of his students at the car wash.
Hey, Mr. White! Make those tires shine, huh?
Oh my God! You would not believe he's cleaning Chad's car, Mr. White.
The teacher's last bit of dignity is ruthlessly trampled on by the student, and Walter can only silently endure, because Walter, who has lived half a lifetime, has already been worn down by life. When he gets home, Skylar has prepared a birthday party for him. She invited many friends and relatives to celebrate. Wearing the purple dress is Walter's sister-in-law Marie, and the man flaunting his gun is Marie's husband Hank. Hank is a local DEA agent, and no matter the situation, he always takes a dominant position. Walter Jr. watches his uncle's performance with admiration and strongly urges Walter to try holding the gun as well. Clearly, in Walter Jr.'s eyes, Walter seems like someone who has never seen the world. In Hank's eyes, Walter is also just an honest and upright chemistry teacher. Hank takes the wine glass from Walter's hand, making it seem like it's his birthday. After finishing his drink, he doesn't forget to turn on the TV to show everyone the news interview about himself. Meanwhile, Walter seems very out of place all by himself. Seeing the drug money captured by the police on the news, Walter is shocked. He had no idea this line of work could be so lucrative. Hank jokes that he could take Walter along on a drug raid to let him see more of the world. The next day, Walter arrives at the car wash for work and suddenly sees a stunning woman in a green dress at the door. He then coughs a few times, feeling a tightness in his chest, and then collapses to the ground. In the ambulance, the doctor conducts an emergency check, but Walter repeatedly asks to stop at the intersection, knowing he doesn't have the extra money for medical expenses, but the doctor firmly refuses. The doctor hears something problematic in Walter's lungs. At the hospital after a lung examination, it turns out Walter is in the late stages of lung cancer and surgery isn't an option. He can only hope to live a few more years with chemotherapy. But at this moment Walter doesn't seem very scared. Instead his attention is focused on a stain on the doctor's coat. Back home Walter doesn't tell his pregnant wife about his condition, knowing that their current financial situation can't afford the high medical costs. Walter returns to work at the car wash where the harsh reality makes him a bit dazed. This scene is precisely witnessed by Bogdan, the stingy boss who comes over to demand Walter clean cars outside. Years of pent-up frustration finally explode in Walter at this moment.
You, Bogdan. What? I said you! And your eyebrows! Wipe down this!
Walter, who hasn't slept all night, sits by the pool early in the morning pondering life. He feels his life is like the match in his hand fleeting. After hesitating for a moment he calls Hank, saying he wants to join him on a drug raid to broaden his horizons. And Walter's purpose is clear. He wants to earn a big sum of money for his family before he dies to ensure his wife and son are taken care of. Without any suspicion Hank immediately agrees with Walter, but what Hank doesn't know is that this operation will bring out a notorious illegal trader. The drug raid progresses very smoothly and within just a few minutes they have subdued several criminals. Hank receives a notice to check inside the house and asks Walter to wait in the car. Just then a man in red underwear escapes from the second floor, and while trying to put on his pants he falls down from the second story. Walter squints and sees that this man is none other than his former student Jesse. Jesse, seeing Walter in the car, is also shocked and tells him not to say anything before running away. Walter hurries out of the car, only seeing Jesse's red captain's license plate. Their paths are thus altered. In the evening Walter uses the school's records to find Jesse's address. Jesse thinks Walter is there to persuade him to turn himself in, but to his surprise Walter is there to discuss a partnership. Hearing this, Jesse almost laughs out loud, looking at Walter with disdain and stating that there's no way he would work with him. However, Walter threatens that if Jesse doesn't agree he will go to the DEA and report him. Hearing this, Jesse's expression instantly freezes. The triumphant Walter then steals the necessary equipment from the school lab and heads straight to Jesse's place. Walter introduces Jesse to the equipment and its usage one by one. Jesse, with a look of disdain, says, "Do you think this is a chemistry class? This is contraband, understand?" Walter, not to be outdone, says that what Jesse is making is trash and a desecration of the art of chemistry. After their argument they store the stuff in Jesse's garage. Since it's Walter's unilateral decision, Jesse won't let him create contraband in his house. But since they can't do this openly, Jesse suggests buying a used RV to do it in a secluded area in the suburbs. Walter agreed and took all his pension money out so Jesse could buy the RV. Seeing Walter's serious demeanor, Jesse reminds him this isn't a joke and asks him to think it over. However, Walter simply says,
I am awake.
What?
Buy the RV.
Jesse reluctantly follows Walter's plan. The scene shifts to Walter and his wife taking their disabled son clothes shopping, only to be unexpectedly mocked by a few men nearby. Skylar is about to confront them but is pulled back by Walter, who never causes trouble. Seeing Walter leave the scene, Skylar is quite speechless. Skylar comforts her son and then with her pregnant belly goes to stand up for her son. Unexpectedly at that moment Walter strides towards those men with a determination that brooks no kinship.
What are you doing? What's wrong, Chief? Having a little trouble walking?
Get off me! Get off me! I'll mess you up, man.
Well, you'll have one shot. You better make it good. What, are you waiting for your girlfriends? You better go. You better go. Take it. Take it. Take it!
By Walter takes Skylar by surprise. She never expected her man to suddenly become so bold, scaring off the thugs directly. Walter Jr. looks at his father's actions with sheer admiration. The next day Jesse successfully purchases the RV. They drive the RV to a remote area on the outskirts, and after ensuring the area is safe they decide to start their contraband project. However, Walter's next actions are something Jesse can't comprehend. "We're here to do the art of chemistry, not nude art. Why are you stripping down?" It turns out Walter doesn't want to bring any chemical smells back home. Next they begin their first artistic creation. Jesse acts like a disruptive student in class, not taking things seriously, while Walter operates with the meticulousness of a scientist. As a wisp of yellow-green gas evaporates from the top of the RV, a batch of contraband with 99.1% purity crystals emerges. This is something Jesse has never seen in his years on the streets. He looks at Walter with admiration, giving high praise to what he has created. Yet Walter is dismissive. "Look at you acting like you've never seen the world. This is just basic chemistry." Jesse is eager to taste it but is stopped by Walter, who lays down the law. We'll just do it, we won't smoke it. Next it's Jesse's turn to perform. He needs to turn these artistic creations into cold hard cash. Jesse quickly finds the local illegal trader Crazy 8 and lets him sample the contraband he's brought, assuring him he's never seen anything of this caliber. Crazy 8 tries a bit and is indeed refreshed, so he asks Jesse about the source of the product. Jesse doesn't answer directly but expresses his condolences about the arrest of Emilio. It turns out that the person Hank and Walter caught during their drug raid was Crazy 8's cousin Emilio, and Jesse narrowly escaped capture by fleeing from the neighbor's house. Emilio is unhappy with Jesse's desertion at a critical moment. Jesse believes he escaped on his own skill and threatens to show Emilio a lesson when he sees him. However, Jesse doesn't know that Crazy 8 bailed Emilio out from the DEA that morning. Seeing Emilio walk out, Jesse can only submit and is coerced by them to go to the contraband production site in the outskirts. Crazy 8 takes out the prepared money, wanting to collaborate with Walter, but Emilio recognizes Walter, who was there on the day of his arrest. They think Jesse is the snitch, and in their anger they decide to eliminate Walter and Jesse. In the panic, Jesse accidentally trips and knocks himself unconscious. With no way out, Walter quickly thinks on his feet and says that he'll share the formula for the contraband if they let him and Jesse go. Crazy 8, having tasted what Walter made, feels the deal is very worthwhile, so he follows Walter into the RV. Emilio has a cigarette in his mouth, but Walter throws it out, citing the no smoking rule. Facing the armed threat from Emilio and Crazy 8, Walter carefully lights the fire, then grabs a bottle of red phosphorus from the table and dumps it into the pot. When Emilio and Crazy 8 aren't paying attention, instantly sparks fly and a large amount of toxic gas is produced. Walter uses all his strength to block the RV door. With several gunshots, the inside of the RV quickly goes quiet. He rushes to check on Jesse's injuries and frees him from the duct tape on his hands when suddenly he smells something burning. It turns out the cigarette, but Emilio throughout has ignited some dry grass. Seeing the fire growing, Walter has no choice but to put on gas masks for himself and Jesse, then drive away from the scene. The rearview mirror still has the pants he didn't have time to put on, which are blown away by the strong wind, linking back to the opening scene. Gun in hand, Walter is ready to end his own life, but having never fired a gun, he has no idea how to use it. Listening to the increasingly close sound of sirens, Walter falls into deep despair. When he sees that the approaching vehicles are actually fire trucks, he realizes he's been scaring himself all along. When he sees that the approaching vehicles are actually fire trucks, he realizes he's been scaring himself all along. At this moment, Jesse wakes up from his unconscious state. Walter explains everything that happened and Jesse can only shake his head in resignation. Afterward, they call a tow truck to pull the RV out of the ditch. Seeing the two acting suspicious, the driver takes the opportunity to charge them extra. They get into the vehicle and Jesse suggests dumping the RV directly into the river, but Walter disagrees because he bought the RV with all his savings. He plans to clean it and then resell it. Since Jesse lives alone, although very unwillingly, Walter decides to temporarily park the RV at Jesse's place. Walter says that after they clean up this mess, they'll go their separate ways as if nothing ever happened. Jesse agrees. Because the RV has ignition problems due to the collision, Walter tries several times before getting the vehicle started. They excitedly high-five to celebrate, but they are completely unaware of the gas mask Walter threw outside. Just then they hear a noise from the back of the RV. They go to check and find that one person is not dead. It seems their cleanup work just got more complicated. Back home, Walter cleans the money left by Crazy 8 and hides it, then cautiously goes to bed. Skylar is puzzled by his behavior over the past few days and reminds Walter not to keep secrets from her. Walter can only pretend everything is fine as he comforts his pregnant wife. The next morning, Walter chats about trivial topics at the breakfast table. Just then the phone rings, but Walter doesn't answer. The call goes to voicemail. Hearing that it's Jesse, Walter quickly goes to answer. Jesse is at home, unsure how to deal with the bodies and very anxious for Walter to come over quickly. Walter deliberately changes the subject, saying he's having breakfast with his family, and quietly reminds Jesse to calm down. He'll come over after school. Walter then hung up the phone, but Skylar, suspicious, feels something is off. As soon as Walter leaves, she redials the phone. Jesse guesses it couldn't have been Walter calling, so he doesn't answer. The call goes to voicemail and Skylar picks up some information about Jesse. After school, Walter goes to the lab to get 2 buckets of hydrofluoric acid to take to Jesse's house. At that moment, Jesse is applying makeup to cover his wounds. Suddenly, he hears the sound of a door opening outside. Looking out the window, he sees indeed the RV's door has been opened. Jesse, baseball bat in hand, cautiously goes downstairs to check and finds the duct tape on the ground where it fell off. He goes into the RV and discovers Crazy 8 is no longer there.